Bienvenidos a Entrevistas en el Infierno. Hoy estamos aquí con Shayane de Trivax. Y nada, vamos a proceder a que haga unas preguntitas como es de costumbre y que las responda. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me. Okay, so we're reading through the questions, eh? Right. How was the band formed and how did you choose the name? Oof. Right, so the band formed in the Islamic Republic of Iran in April 2009. It was formed with myself and a very close friend of mine for many years. We know him as L.A. He's the vocalist of the band Labizan Jangal. So basically in Iran, I knew absolutely no person who even listened to the same style of music, let alone anyone who was actually playing the same style of music. In fact, I didn't even know many musicians to begin with. So it was a very isolated experience. What happened was that through school, I ended up meeting my friend, and I basically proposed to him the idea of starting our own band because I was already on that trajectory myself. It's just that I didn't really know anyone, and he didn't even play any instruments at the time. But out of our friendship, he actually agreed to go to learn the bass. And then we kind of started from there, but it's a very long and complicated history, especially being in Iran. And you're not supposed to play this kind of music over there. It has legal consequences. It certainly has societal consequences. And that was something that we were, of course, very aware of, but we still kept pushing forward. And that was essentially the formation of the band. You ask about how we chose the name. Interestingly enough, again, relating to my friend who I formed the band with, he had a release for his side project, which I later ended up contributing quite a lot to, the side project being called Labizan Jangal. He had a little album called Trivax Motam Maniling Humanism, and I just remember about a year or two into the band's inception, because we actually went through a range of names before we landed on that one. I remember seeing the title, and then I took it to our drummer at the time, and we were both just like, what if we took Trivax and made it Trivax? That's a unique name. I've never heard that before. So we decided to go with that. And the meaning of the name, which we've added onto it ourselves, is storm. So Trivax means storm because wherever we go, we show up, and by the time we leave, it's as if a fucking tornado's hit the place. So that's the appropriate meaning behind our name. Who writes the lyrics and who composes the music, or is it a collaborative effort? Technically both of those. I write and compose all of the songs for Trivax, especially the lyrics. They're a very personal part of the whole thing for me. And when it comes to the music, that's all something that I do in isolation, or something that I always have ideas coming to me at the strangest of times. As a matter of fact, just, it's something that kind of flows through me. But once I compose all of the material, then I send it to the guys. And what we started doing with our latest album, The Great Satan, myself and my drummer, Matt Croton, who I've been playing with for 13 years now, him and I, we sat down together and basically restructured some of the songs on the album. Some parts we left them as they were. Some other parts we changed them around a little bit in the rehearsal room. And then that was basically the final product. So I write everything on my own, and then we perfect it together afterwards. What artists or bands have influenced your sound? There are many. I'm sure this is the one that every time you ask someone this question, they start scratching their head. Off the top of my head, I would say Celtic Frost, Metallica, Bathory, Dissection, but also bands like Depeche Mode. They're a huge influence on myself personally, and obviously I write all the music. So I don't know if people who listen to Trivax can even hear the Depeche Mode influence, but it is all over the place. It's actually very strong, I would say, especially in some of the vocal phrasing, some of the rhythm sections, and another band that are a big influence, I would say, probably Fields of the Nephilim. They've had a tremendous influence on us as well. And also, going back to my roots, I listen to a lot of traditional Iranian folk music. Particularly that of both Humayun and Mohammad Reza Shajarian. And Shajarian. The Shajarian name is a classic example of Persian folk music at its absolute peak, and they're a very infamous family. And Muhammad Reza himself, who recently passed away, may he rest in peace. We refer to him as the master. You know, he had a unique voice, unlike anything you've ever heard, and he was truly an icon in Iranian music, but also world music. So I can listen to them and some of what those guys were creating. You know, because they were vocalists, but they also collaborated with like some of the most elite tier folk musicians in Iran. So I listened to that. I grew up listening to it, and whenever I reflect on it, it's just something that runs in my blood. So one thing that again perhaps makes Trivax stand out is the fact that we do have those Iranian slash Persian influences in our music, which I would say that with the new album people will be hearing a lot more of, and that's only something that's going to increase going forward. Where do you record your music, and who have you worked with on production? The last album, The Great Satan, which will be coming out very soon, on the 30th of May by Osmos Records. I recorded this one on my own at a cabin near Swansea. It was about 3 days of complete madness, you know. But it was extremely rewarding. The memory is very special, and something about the disconnect from the rest of the world really fed into the energies of this album. It's very palpable and very moving in many ways. So yeah, and then later we recorded the drums and the lead vocals with our very good friend Greg from the band Esoteric, and he does the Priory Studios in Birmingham, and again Birmingham and Sutton Coldfield. That's kind of a part of Trivax's initial inception when we first started the band in the UK. So yeah, it was very special to have that. And then, of course, as a final, we had our very good friend Sam Turbit from Ritual Sound do the mixing and the mastering of the album. And he was also the guy responsible for doing the same for our previous album, Eloah Burns Out. Granted, I think we've both learned a lot in this time. So this album, I would say, sounds much better than our previous. So yeah. Do you have any interesting anecdotes from the recording studio? I think I already kind of said that. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. I can actually give you one anecdote. I was preparing for a ceremony during the vocal recordings, so my diet was very strange, and I was abstaining from a lot of things during that time. I could only eat specific things, and I was fasting for quite a lot of that, but I was also practicing semen retention, which was something that was required of me for this particular ceremony that I was partaking in right after the album recording. So it was a very interesting headspace, but more importantly than that, I think it was kind of at least personally, I was in a very purified state when I was recording and capturing this album. And I feel like some of the songs, especially a song like Demon's Melancholia, I think the way the vocals came out on that one were the most honest and raw version of anything that I've ever encapsulated in recording. So yeah, very proud and pleased of how it turned out, and we certainly made some good memories doing it. What has been your best concert experience? That's a very difficult one, because we always say our last one was our best. I know this is not really a common answer, especially with bands that kind of become more professional, the more shows that you play. The bar gets set higher, but I truly and genuinely believe that with Trivax, every time we play, we are fucking getting better. Doesn't matter how many times it happens, we just keep getting better and better and better and better and better. So I would say our best experience was last week when we played at the Incineration Festival in London. I would say that was the best one. Of course, I have great memories of our very first show as well, when we performed at the school in Iran illegally, and by the end of the show they set the school on fire. So that was our experience of our very first concert, which I'll never forget. And of course, I will also never shut up about it either. But yeah, that was, Trivax shows are extremely special. It's amongst my very favorite things to do in life and in this variation of existence. Do you have any rituals or routines before going on stage? Yes, we enjoy injecting liters of trenbolone. No, I would say that just finding a way to get into the right headspace, and sometimes like some stretches or things. It's a very strange thing. I can't really materialize this answer because it's quite an unusual experience. It's not the same as walking down to go to the supermarket where there are steps to it. The Trivax experience is something that needs to be accommodating for that otherness to take over. And when that otherness takes over, it's very hard to really break down what is happening internally, because it's much like a psychedelic experience. When you're going through it, it makes perfect sense. When you come out of it, it's very difficult to kind of materialize it and then put it into square blocks. And I think that that's only appropriate because the Trivax live show isn't something that belongs in a box. It is a storm, and it's an experience of its own that only people who have witnessed for themselves can really feel a sense of identity within it. And we've been doing it for many years now, and even then, identifying what makes it what it is very difficult. All I know is that there's a feeling in our guts, and it makes our whole bodies shake, and it makes the world move. And that's about as much as I can really identify the Trivax shows as. Do you have any notable stories about meeting a fan at a concert? I do. Quite a few of these, actually. One of my favorites, I would say, just off the top of my head, this was quite a special one. Last year, we played this festival. We actually headlined this really small festival, a very cool place in Germany. And this was the Azadi Festival. And we did a show there, and a lot of the gig was actually surrounding the whole Iranian movement, and of course that resonates very deeply with my own personal background and my own mission in life when it comes to these things. And we had a gentleman there who was from Ahvaz, which is a southern city in Iran. It's in the southwest of Iran, and he was someone who had lost family members to the Iranian government, father, brother, murdered, killed. And he was actually at this show, and he wasn't necessarily someone who was even a metalhead, you could say, but having someone like that there, and halfway through the set, we actually did a cover of a Persian pop artist, specifically just for that one show. It's the only time we've done it. And I remember seeing him from stage, and his whole face was like a bucket of water, That's extremely powerful and overwhelming. And of course, we spoke after the show as well, and to me, it's such an honor to get to do what we do and have those kind of experiences, because you can't make that up. You could have millions and millions, and you'll still never be able to buy that experience and how special it is, And more importantly, we take a lot of responsibility that, yes, black metal is a small genre, death metal is a small genre, metal is not really the biggest thing in the world, but you will never fucking be able to take away the fact that we have that place in other people's lives, and of course, as well as the place that this music has in our own lives. So yeah, we're lucky and we're grateful, and we're only just getting started. So yeah. Can you tell us about your latest album/single? What was the inspiration behind it? Fuck. All right then. So this is a good one, because our last album, which is, it's our newest one. It's yet to be released. It'll be coming out on the 30th of May. It's called The Great Satan, and the single from this album is a song called Operation Ramadan. It's a very unusual title and lyrical theme, I think when it comes to black metal. I know that the whole war theme is something that a lot of black metal bands have been tapping into. The most notable, of course, being Marduk from early 2000s, or late 90s, shall I say. But I think that the way we've done it is just something that is very close to our hearts, and it's something that, like in the case of myself, my parents actually lived through this war, which was the Iran-Iraq war that happened in the 80s. It happened between 1980 and 1987, and it was a disastrous war. Close to 2 million people died from it, and I have elaborated on this more in detail on my podcast, Iblis Manifestations, on episode 128. But basically, Operation Ramadan was a failed strategic mission on behalf of Iran to try and invade Iraq. I think they had something close to 125 to 150,000 volunteers from all over the country. And some of these volunteers included children who basically didn't really know any better. Well, of course, I respect their bravery, but very much, in fact, they were probably more brave than I am or anyone who's watching this right now. But also, they didn't know better. And I think as leaders, it was criminal to send these kids into war. And basically what happened in this mission, they sent massive human wave attacks in the largest land battle since World War II. They sent massive waves of human attacks to invade Iraq, and Iraq had very large areas covered in minefields. So the work of these kids and young men was to just run through the minefield and clear the path for the actual army to then go through. And some of them didn't have weapons, they didn't even have any plans, they just ran through the minefields and died. So that's what the song was about. It's about the failure in leadership, like all of these people who keep pushing this Islamic ideology. And in the West, you're not allowed to criticize it because then you're Islamophobic or you're a racist or whatever. And I think that's just completely wrong. That is wrong. I come from there, and I can tell you that the corruption that it can cause is irreparable to one society, because I've watched it happen to my own home country of Iran. And historically speaking, you look at the countries where Islam has truly took control, and granted, they've been somewhat of an elitist about it. I think Iran and Pakistan are probably good examples, and you can see how it's turned those countries into absolute shit as a result of it. So our work in Trivax is to criticize that very openly and invite the discussion. Hey, you're not racist for criticizing a religion. You are just having a discussion. And look, we come from there. We are having a discussion. Don't be afraid to criticize. Don't be afraid to question things. And hopefully when people see us doing it, they're able to have the same conversation. And another thing is that with Operation Ramadan, it's not a song that is rude or crude or it's saying terrible things about the faith or the religion. It's actually documenting facts that happen, historical facts. And people can look at that for themselves and make their own conclusions. I think any person of good faith and good heart would come to the same conclusion, which is that it was an absolutely barbaric and severe mistake that cost the lives of thousands of young, innocent people. So we should learn from that and not mute the conversation when it comes to criticizing certain ideologies. What are your plans for future releases? At the moment, our focus is The Great Satan. We're going to release this one. When it happens, then we will think about what's coming next. But I can reassure people that Trivax have signed a 2-album deal with Osmos. So as soon as this one is out, we will be working on another one. But it's simply too soon to talk about any of that at the moment. Do you have any dream projects or collaborations? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But much of it is blue sky thinking, and I don't like to talk about stuff until it's actually happened. So I don't want to jinx it now. But yeah, I would love to do more collaborations with maybe even people who are from outside of metal musically. So I like doing that kind of thing, and I feel like with where Trivax is musically, we have so much room to do different things there. So yeah, for sure. There's a lot that I'm open to, but I don't want to discuss it just in case, you know. They say never tell anyone your plans. I think there's a reason for that. So there we go. What do you think the current metal scene needs to continue growing? It needs balls. It needs balls because it's lacking it at the moment. We're trying too hard to fit into boxes. This is not a genre that is supposed to fit anything. Like, I don't understand people who get into the genre and then feel the necessity to dictate, oh, it should be this way, or no, it should be this way. Fuck you. We're here for the music, and I think that people tiptoe so much around different topics. They self-censor so much. And by the way, this applies to everyone from all sides, okay? This is a very political, non-binary answer, because it's not just about politics either. I think that, you know, I'm all for people having the right to express themselves, because that's, to us, that's really one of the main things. What I don't get is life is short. You have a very short time on this earth. So let's say as an alive human being, how many albums can you even release? If you think about it, and for how many of those albums are you going to be in prime, young condition, much like we are in Trivax right now, where you're actually going to be able to play it live, where you're actually going to be able to really push it out there. So how much of that time are you going to spend trying to fucking copy what other people are doing instead of just saying what you truly mean and what you truly think? And I think that that's the thing, is that we're constantly trying to copy things, and we even behave the same way. Oh, that guy said so-and-so band sucks, so now I'm going to say the same thing. You know, or I'm going to wear the same back patch as that person because this band looks cool, even though their music is shit. So, you know, and again, that's a subjective thing, but what I'm trying to get to with that is the fact that I think we waste so much of our energy and precious time on this earth just trying to fit in, and I'm tired of it. I'm not having it. And I think if we just had a bit more balls, we would dare to be ourselves. So what can the metal scene do to grow or continue growing? It can grow a nice pair of shiny balls and cojones, as we call it here. And hopefully the future will be more bright. What has been the biggest sacrifice you've made for the band? Well, I think that a lot of people talk about the term sacrifice, and it is, of course, also a classic Bathory song, as we all know. But I think that sacrifice has to be of something that is of value, okay? If you already don't like something, giving it up doesn't present much of a value to the universe or to the higher power, whatever it is that's witnessing your actions in this life. That's something I strongly believe in, and I think that it's something that I actually shy away from talking about more and more as of late. I think that you need to give it something that is of value. We all, of course, have to do that. For me personally, it was simply the case of leaving my home country, leaving my family, everyone that I knew, everyone that I grew up with at a relatively young age, to come across to the UK, and of course that sounds like a privilege, and let me tell you, it is a privilege. I feel very privileged to have been able to do that, because I did that in order to be able to continue playing the music of Trivax, because in Iran we simply couldn't do it. It was not only not sustainable, it was dangerous to do it. And the way we were progressing at the time, I think things could have ended very badly if I had stayed behind. I know that for a fact. You know, and of course you can look at it as a privilege and say that, oh, you got to go to a nicer country. what people don't realize is that I had to give up a lot of things. I had way more comfort when I was in Iran. I had so much more accessibility, especially financially. This stuff that people don't realize. They think that, oh, Iran's just a shithole. It's not. It's not. It's actually a great country. The problem is it's culturally and morally and religiously and spiritually heavily corrupt. So where I was coming from, I had to live up a fairly comfortable life to go to an unknown place where I didn't know a single person. When I landed in the UK, I didn't know anyone. I just landed with a BC Rich guitar on my back, knowing that I was gonna come and play the fucking music that I wanted to. And guess what? I did exactly that. But that was not necessarily an easy path, and I don't think it was meant to be an easy path. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sat here with you today. And I think that what people need to realize is that being in a country on your own for a long time, to people, to language that you're not completely familiar with, is not an easy task. Many people take their own lives, they get into self-harming, they get very depressed, they go back, many of them go back, sometimes they get sent back. We've had to endure a lot to be where we are today, and I think the important thing is at no point do either myself or the bass player in my band who had a similar trajectory in his life, we do not feel like victims. We never feel like victims. We will never identify as victims because we chose this path and subsequently we paid the price for it to the universe, to the world, in our own lives. And here we are, sat at Winds of Agony, sharing the lineup with a great many bands: Blasphemy, Darvaza, Beherit, like Noir, Dead Congregation. Like, you can't fucking make it up. This is the best. Like, I literally, like, you know, like, if anyone's like doing anything in their life, just fucking go through with it. Just keep pushing to it. If you keep showing up, you never know where it goes, because that's what we've seen. That's what we have seen. The only thing that gets in your way is you quitting. Doesn't matter what the circumstances bring. And I've seen that firsthand many times now. So I can say that with a fairly strong amount of confidence. So yeah, we've made sacrifices, but we're glad to be here. Oh, this is good. How do you feel when you listen to your early albums compared to your more recent ones? That's a very good one, because at the time when you put something out, you think it's the, as we call it in Britain, the dog's bollocks. Good luck translating that, by the way. Yeah, I think it's, you know, the thing is that with us, our first album didn't actually come out until 2016. That particular album, I've expressed my opinions on it. I think that the songwriting is spotless. I think it's very good songwriting, but the production, the performance, and everything else is just shit. I don't like it. The album cover as well, I really like it because it's a very close personal thing, but I don't think I just did a very good job of portraying it back then, you know? It's too mysterious for its own good, and there's too much stories behind every song and every riff, but like nothing makes sense because it's just a random album that's out there. So I feel like, you know, that's an album that I always kind of thought, oh, that could have been better. And a big part of it is that, and this is not me throwing anyone under the bus, but I just was not happy with the lineup of the band at that time. That's all I had, you know, so I, you know, needs must. But I would happily go back and basically re-record all of that album on my own, and then basically get our drummer to redo it now, you know, because we've also, as far as skills are concerned, come a long way, very long way, as people can hear if they compare the two albums. But what I like is when I reflect on the early stuff. So we did this tape release with Trivax last year called Burning Fields of Hatred. And I am so fucking proud of that tape release, because that is all of the stuff that I made and I put together when I was in Iran as a 15, 16-year-old teenager. And the quality of it, granted, is not great. It's not supposed to be great. That's part of the charm. because there was so much technological limitations. There was so many different things. We had no idea. Like the way I used to record the songs, I would put like a small shitty video camera on top of my amplifier, video me playing it, and then take that and chop the audio and then use virtual DJ to time the two stems, if you will. And it was just such a it was almost like a analog way of mixing the stuff. And what you're hearing is basically that. What you hear on that tape is those songs as they were in an extremely primitive format. But what's good about it is that they're all recorded there, you know, and knowing that what you're listening to may not be perfect, but it's all stuff that's recorded and made behind enemy lines inside the Islamic Republic. True Iranian black metal. So I'm very proud of that one. Yeah. And of course, when I listen to our latest one, The Great Satan, I think it's the best fucking thing we ever made. In fact, I think it's the best extreme metal album I have heard for as long as I can remember. So there's that. That's my honest opinion. How do you manage to evolve your sound without losing the essence of the band? I think that evolution artistically sometimes is a bit like shedding skin. Sometimes you do need to leave some stuff behind, but then in return you get to grow new flesh in return for it. So one thing that I've never been afraid of with Trivax is to experiment and just write what I feel like writing, write what I feel like playing on stage, if you will. And I think that's part of the reason why we stand out so much, is because we're not trying to do copy and paste. We're not copying other people, we're not even copying ourselves. That's the thing. When you listen to a Trivax album, The Great Satan, for example, every song is almost a different subgenre of its own. Where it starts with Atash, which is like, it's not even a black metal song, it's just oriental instruments and clean vocals and, you know, like this weird like Rammstein vibe as I keep hearing from people who give me feedback, which I'm proud of that, because I think it's very unique, you know, and the lyrics are fucking devastating. And then you got the song after that, To Liberation and Beyond, which is just a classic example of like, well, it's a mix of thrash metal, death metal, and a bit of black metal in there too, you know. So we're not afraid to fuck around. And then you have songs like Here Comes the Flood, which is just like technical death metal almost. So Trivax is a very unique band in that sense. So I think the way to do that is to just be honest, because you say, how do you keep progressing without losing the essence of the band? Well, the essence of the band is its honesty. So doesn't matter how our sound evolves, that essence will always remain there. And as long as we're not trying to write riffs in a specific way so that, oh, the label likes it more, or that, oh, people like this sort of thing better now, fuck that. I've never given a fuck about that, you know, maybe to a fault, but I'm not interested in that. I want to write music that I want to hear, and I'm very certain on what I want to hear. If people want to join the party, they're more than welcome to. If not, I'm still going to write it how I want to write it. So, here we go. What do you seek to convey with your music beyond the sound? To be free and to be able to think for yourself. Because to us as people, that's the most important thing. And I know that's something that it's a cliche thing that people throw around, but I don't think people really appreciate the value of freedom fully. So I think that freedom takes a degree of power. And not everyone is actually prepared to wield that power, because that takes discipline. There's this very interesting paradox between discipline and freedom. I suppose ultimately at the core of it, we're preaching both of those, is discipline and freedom. Is that if you want something, if you believe in something, you gotta be able to fucking stick to it. And you gotta be able to pay the price that the world and the universe is gonna ask from you as well. And I get that that's a very esoteric answer when it comes to just music, but that's really all it is. I think that the way I observe the music of Trivax is open sourcing strains of thought that are liberating and devastating. And you know, like when you go through life, when you're sat at the underground or at the tube or on a train or a bus or a plane, you're kind of thinking to yourself, I am this invisible person. I am just a law-abiding citizen. I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm not going to, and that's to an extent, it's like you kind of want that, but also on the inside, you're muting some of your truest essence as a human being, which is related to violence, which is related to power, which is related to strength. And I think what Trivax does, it goes up in the back of your little brain and flicks the switch, and that primitive power unlocks once again. And at least that's what I hope it gives people, because that's what happens to us when we're on stage. I would say that most of us, maybe not so much me personally, but I would say most of the guys from my band, if you met us in via live, whatever that is, if you met us out into the Matrix, we all seem kind of normal. But when you combine us all together and add the music, then something else is there. And I want people to be able to experience that something else for them, because it's something ancient that's coded in our DNA. Think of the following. Everyone that you know has committed murder at some point. Because if you're alive here, that means your DNA has been passed on for millions of years. So in order to survive in the ancient times, you needed to kill. You needed to do that. So we are all inherently murderers on the inside. Now that's not to say that go around and do it again. No, I think murder is terribly wrong. I think it's awful. I don't think you should hurt innocent people. What I also believe in is that we should still, through some form, through some medium, be in touch with our ancient shadow self. And I think Trivax is that. The music of Trivax is open sourcing ancient pathways to the shadow self, which Carl Jung has a lot to say. But this goes way back. Because ultimately, the result of that is healing. Ultimately, the result of that is healing, because you learn who you are. There's a line in the song Demon's Melancholia that says, face the shadow and the beast. This is who you really are. And that's exactly what that means. Face the shadow self. How do you deal with moments of creative block? I don't have them. I never have them. And I think part of that is because I recognize that I'm a vessel for channeling energy and for words and for music and for a certain thing to come into this world, because it's necessary. I believe I was born for a reason. I believe we all were born for a reason, but what I do is I take my reasons very fucking seriously. And when you're in that place, you don't have a block. That's it. Ooh, good ones on this one. How much time have we got? Do you think there are prejudices against extreme metal musicians in society? Of course. Of course there are prejudices, but also, do we let that define us? Because you could almost take that and feel empowered by it. That's how I've always felt, because you talk about prejudices. Where I come from, those prejudices were actual dangerous threats, legal or from other people who want to do the will of Allah and want to take your life for fucking playing blasphemous music. So I'm more than familiar with prejudices, but I also think that's what gives us our character. I like it, if anything. You don't like the fact that we're playing this noisy and loud music? Good, no problem. We're gonna carry on doing it. But then if you do like it, then that's also good for you. You're welcome. Like I said, I think people should stop identifying themselves based on negativity and victimhood. Fuck that. No, I like your prejudice. Bring it on. You don't like the fact that I do what I do? Fucking great. Bring it on. Let me know. Tell me. Send location. Yeah. What do you do in your free time when you're not playing or composing? I lift a lot of weights, train. I'm also a fitness coach, so I help other people do the same thing. Practicing discipline is a very important thing to me, and I live a fairly scheduled life in the sense that I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't fuck around, I don't watch porn. You will rarely find me at a pub on the weekends. Where you will find me is where I am giving my 110% dedication of my time to things that serve me, my purpose, and what we are all doing. So yeah, time is really short. It's our most precious currency that we have, and I don't like to waste it. So yeah. What do you think about censorship in metal and music in general? Okay, so this is a big one for me because we have censorship and then we have self-censorship, and I think that both of those are the deadly sins of the modern world, but self-censorship probably being an even bigger one. I think that in the context of metal, it's actually the most ironic thing because it's just not made for it. You can't play this type of music and then censor. Oh, you can't sing those certain lyrics. Oh, you can't say that. Oh, don't be singing about this. Like, you can sing about what the fuck you want. Do whatever you want. And then some people talk about, oh, you can't talk about free speech without consequences. Yeah, you know what? I actually agree with that too. But bring on those consequences too. You know, I think that we're constantly trying to protect everything and everyone. It's like, what are we protecting each other from? There's nothing there. Let it all out. That's the point of freedom. That's how we get to work together. That's how we get to coexist. You know, maybe some of those ideas, instead of silencing them, if you listen to them, and if, more importantly, not if you listen to them, but if the people who are espousing certain ideas that are, let's say, unacceptable, and instead of being silenced, if people actually listen to it, and if they could actually hear the echo of what they're saying back in their own ears, they'd be like, oh, actually, maybe, you know what? Maybe this is not as good of an idea as I think it is. But because you silence and censor someone, that person's going to go and think, you know what? I'm right. I know this. They're going to double down even fucking harder on what they think. And what that's going to lead to in the ultimate outcome is absolute extremism and total polarization. And we definitely haven't got our shit together when it comes to metal, when it comes to this kind of thing. But I also understand it's a reflection of society as a whole. So, in case that wasn't clear, I am extremely anti-censorship because I grew up in an environment where censorship is paramount, and I fucking hate it. It stifles innovation, it stifles the truth more than anything. We should focus more on the actual truth, and the only way to get to the truth is discourse. The more you focus on truth, and instead of focusing on just being right, then I think we'll be onto something there. What do you think is the biggest stigma that extreme metal faces today? You guys saved the juicy ones for last, eh? Well, it depends which way you look at it. Because if it's stigma that other people are attaching to it, I think one thing that probably happens quite a lot right now is that I think black metal, for some reason, has a really bad name when it comes to Nazism. I think that's a big problem. But I don't know, like, if you were to statistically, like, take every single black metal band in the world, run it through, like, I don't know, maybe an AI filter, what percentage of those black metal bands are actually gonna be NSBM? Where, like, they really believe it, they really sing it, and they're really putting it out there. Is it even 5%? Is it 2%? I think it's a really small percentage. And that's still, you know, that's something that people will take problem with. And I'm not downplaying that, but I'm just thinking that If you asked someone on the streets, oh, do you think black metal is like a Nazi music genre? They'd be like, yeah. And then if you ask them, what percentage do you think are into that kind of stuff? They'd probably be like, oh, maybe most, maybe half of it, you know, which I think is really bad. I don't know how we got to this point, if I'm honest with you. And maybe there's something there where I'm naive about it, but I don't think so. I don't think this is a predominantly far-right genre at all. I don't think it's even a political genre. I mean, Trivax, we kind of do things a little bit differently, but even then, with Trivax, it's not even an issue of right or left. It's an issue of fucking basic human freedoms, which we didn't fucking have. So I think that's one of the problems, you know? And again, what I'm saying, most people, I feel like they wouldn't even feel comfortable talking about it. Because also, most people are afraid of being judged in the wrong way, or maybe they have some ideas that they don't want people to know. I know exactly what I believe in. I feel a lot of confidence and comfort behind that. So I don't mind talking about other stuff that might be uncomfortable for others, you know. I'm just like a lot of people are comfortable with their sexualities, I'm very confident with my beliefs. So I have no problem talking about it, but I think it's really weird. I don't quite understand it, to be honest. I don't understand why there's this obsession with like, oh, Nazis and black metal. There are some, of course, but I don't get the obsession. It's not because you don't say the same about death metal, but I wonder if statistically they're maybe even more similar. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think that it's a shame that black metal, with all of its power and all of the amazing artistic fruit that it holds, is tainted by this other thing. I don't understand. And the thing is as well, I can't even think of any NSBM bands that are actually good. I've never been into any of them. Maybe if I thought really hard about it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that band had some cool riffs. But it's like, there's not even any like notable bands that actually make good music. Usually it's bands that are fucking shit. So in order to overcompensate for it, it's like, oh, here's this label. And then on the other hand, people who have an outrage about it end up only giving it more of a pedestal. So I don't know. I think it's a lot better if we just fucking laugh it off and just look for the good riffs. I think we would all be a lot better off if we did that. It's just my personal take. I come from a different background. Maybe I think differently. I don't know. But I'm just a lot less sensitive to it, you know. And as someone who comes from a different country as well, you know, I should be the one who'll tell you like, oh, we've had this kind of prejudice. We've had no experience of it. Both me and my bass player, we're technically minorities. We've never had any experience like that. We've played with bands who were cancelled for that shit, and they treated us better than anyone else did. So, I don't know. Actions speak a lot louder than words, I think. It's important to keep that in mind. Especially when it's the words of others. What advice would you give to emerging bands just starting out? Just be yourself. Just be yourself, and sometimes you gotta try a few things out before you figure out who you even are. But just, you know what? Try and live a life. Try and live life as much as you can, because the more experiences you gain in your personal life, the more you get to then project that into your music, and that will give your music so much more weight. And trust me that when you make that deal, when you really truly make that wish from the bottom of your heart, the universe will fucking respond to you, and it'll respond to you strong. You be prepared for the events that will follow. And yeah, if that's what you want to do, then you'll get to do it, and you'll get to put a lot into your music. And I know that maybe you were hoping for like an industry related answer or whatever, and there's plenty of stuff out there for that for sure. But I also think that at the end of the day, the purpose of being in a band is to create your art. Create your art, share it with people. There's a lot of people out there who, like a lot of bands out there, I can name them, I'm not going to, but there's a lot of bands out there who've got everything. They've got good musicianship, they've got the stage gear, they've got good production, they've got the right agents, they've got the right promoters, they've got the right merch designs, they've got the right everything. Good following, all the Spotify streams or whatever the fuck that merits for a band being successful in today's world. There are bands that have that all, yet they have no substance to their art or their music. They're simply existing and filling spaces just with their copy and paste bullshit. And I think that's just wrong. It's such a waste of time. Like I could not imagine standing on a stage with more than 2 or 3 people in front of me, having a whole crowd, playing riffs to them that I didn't really mean. What the fuck is that? So I think if you're starting out as a band, just do what feels right to you, even if it's ridiculous, even if you think people are gonna laugh at it, or even if you think, oh, well, so and so didn't do that, we're not gonna do this. No. Listen, I'm gonna finish this with a little story for you. So there was a little eagle egg that was somehow lost from the eagle's nest, and it landed with a bunch of chickens, right? And the chickens looked after this eagle egg as if it was their own. So then the eagle chick ended up growing up with them, doing all the same stuff that they do. It never flew. It never did what eagles do. And that eagle died a chicken because it didn't know who he truly was. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are eagles deep inside, but they're just surrounded by a bunch of chickens. And maybe they don't know their full potential. And I think in order to get to that full potential, you have to put in the work. You have to be disciplined. You have to put in the hard work, and you have to be willing to take risks. Playing it safe ain't gonna get you there. I can say that for sure. So yeah, for bands starting out, remember, you might be an eagle. Here's my advice. There we go.
Este es el juego, se llama el desafío infernal. Y aquí, bueno, pues eliges un papelito.
Cool. Let's hope for a spicy one. This is funny. If you could swap bodies with another band member for a day, who would it be and why? Easy question. It would be my bass player Sully. He's good looking like I am. He goes to the gym. So it'll probably be the closest thing I have to what I am already experiencing. And we get mistaken for brothers all the time, even though our hometowns are 3-hour flights apart. So that's why we go for that.
Okay.
There we go. So you want me to sign it? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. No problem.
There inside input in the corner, do you prefer?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is for you. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure. And see you in the next time. In the concert.
Yes.
Hell yeah, let's do it. Gracias.
A pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.